Thank you very much for joining today's webinar, The Recent Evolution of Tech Talent Hiring. We've got a great discussion planned today, and I'm very thankful for Jobshark for agreeing to take part with us in this webinar today. Before we get started, I've got a couple of very quick housekeeping things to get through. So first of all, this webinar is being recorded. So if you can't make it to the end of the session, or if you'd like to share it with one of your colleagues, you'll be receiving a link to the recording tomorrow. So keep an eye on your inbox for that. Those of you who registered on LinkedIn, you'll get an email message. So check your email for the recording for that. Second of all, there are some polls, so we strongly encourage you to get involved in those polls. We've got some questions structured around those polls, so your involvement is strongly encouraged there. And last but not least, we do have time for a Q&A session at the end of today's webinar, around 5-10 minutes to go. So if you've got any questions for our panelists, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen on Zoom. If you're joining on LinkedIn, unfortunately, you can't do that, but I've got it open here, so you can also fire it in the comments there, and I'll be sure to ask it during the session today. Now that stuff's out of the way, I will introduce our panelists. I'm going to go from left to right on my screen. So I'm going to start with you, Ivan. Can you give us a quick introduction about yourself, please?
Hi, Justin. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. I'm Ivan. I'm part of the team here at Comstream and Jobshark. We specialize in helping companies find top talents across borders, whatever the model may be. Me personally, I have now close to 13 years of experience in the IT sector, basically building, managing, and developing teams, as well as growing talent. And I'm really looking forward to our talk today. Hopefully, we can share some helpful insights and some nice information.
Yep. Thanks very much for being with us. Anders, can we go next to you? Can you give us a quick introduction about yourself, please?
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. I have 20 years in the IT industry, worked both in consultancy and product companies. Back in 2010, we founded a company called Comstream down in Bulgaria. And our business idea was to put together nearshore teams, like dedicated teams in software development and technical support for different customers. And from the beginning, we decided to have HR and recruiting in-house. And already like a few years later, our customers asked us, I mean, why don't you start a recruiting business as well? I mean, why don't you use the same processes you have in Bulgaria to offer recruiting services up in Sweden? And that's what we did. So then we started recruiting business, a recruiting leg in parallel with this. And we done like been focused purely on tech recruiting since then.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few years ago, or longer actually, 4 or 5 years ago, we got an idea to make it more efficient with tech recruiting. So we decided to develop a platform, and we decided to name it Jobshark. And this is a platform for tech recruiting, and the very purpose is to make it more efficient to collaborate with our customers. We have certain benefits that we can also do part of recruiting process. So we can do only the sourcing, for instance, and not like full-scale recruiting with all the different steps. So we can collaborate very efficiently with our customers. And here we are today. We have hundreds of customers. We have 80 employees in the company. And today we also offer, besides recruiting, we also offer freelancing opportunities through the platform. We see it as part of recruiting actually, but we also connect companies with great freelancers, and we built up a freelancer network mainly in Eastern Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So freelancers available to different projects and assignments. That we see it as part of the recruiting. Yeah, that's where we are today. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, looking forward to tapping into wealth of knowledge from both of you. And last but not least, Robert, can you just give us a quick introduction about yourself, please, mate?
Of course, Robert Drzecinski here. I represent the side of desk here in this discussion. A pleasure to be here with you guys. I've known Anders for some years. I've recently got a wonderful opportunity to also get acquainted with Ivan. As for me, I have more than 10 years of experience with customers of various sorts. I was in insurance companies. I was in healthcare-related companies, more of building processes for customers, but also handling this customer clients, configuration operations. So right now I've been in the tech IT industry for a good 5 years now. working in various scenarios, in various pipelines, optimizing recruitment processes, because ultimately this is what DevSkiller does. We tend to optimize processes to shorten the cycles while keeping the efficiency up. So, or even increasing it if we can, if there is some room for it, and there usually is. So that's what I've been doing for the past 5 years, spreading the good word about the tech market revolution that is going on right now, especially in the wake of AI. So I'm here to add a bit of insight into how we can tackle this, and how it's been changing, and how I've been observing it over this year. So thank you, and looking forward to our discussion very much.
Yep, as am I. And yeah, we do have a lot planned today. Obviously, we're going to be tackling the recent evolution of tech talent hiring. Obviously, hiring has changed a lot in recent years, particularly, I think, nothing more so than in tech. So we've got a lot to unpack. Before I do that, though, I'm going to launch a poll, which is one of 3 polls we're going to have today. And this one's talking about the biggest challenge in tech recruitment. So question here is, what is your biggest challenge in tech recruitment right now? Finding qualified candidates, speeding up the hiring process, assessing technical skills accurately, competing with remote employees, aligning hires with long-term needs, or if you don't see something there, you can also choose select other. And I can see a few people filtered in during those introductions there as well. So thank you very much for joining us today. We're just getting started. We've got a poll on the screen, so cast a vote. And then we'll jump into our first question. I'm going to let it run a little bit longer because there's some more of you in that haven't voted, but I'll give it about 10 more seconds. Okay. I always try to wait for one more vote, but it doesn't seem like we're going to get it. Okay. I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results, which are on your screen. So what's your biggest challenge in tech recruitment right now? 46% of you voted for finding qualified candidates. Got votes as well for speeding up the hiring process, assessing technical skills accurately, and a couple of votes for aligning hires with long-term needs. And this is actually going to bridge into our first question here, which is actually for you, Anders. And we're talking a little bit here about changes in tech hiring, particularly since the pandemic. Obviously, a lot's changed since then. It's already been 5 years since the pandemic first struck. So the question here is, what are the most significant changes you've seen in tech hiring over the past few years, particularly since the pandemic?
Thanks, Justin. Very, very good question there. If I allow myself to go even further back, I think something happened around the dot-com boom. And since then,
quite a way back.
Quite a way back, yeah. I mean, but we see 2 mega trends actually, and the first one started already then, and that was the scarcity of IT professionals, and this is exactly what it's showing even today. So then it started with a lack of IT guys, so it became competition for good IT guys, and then some years later, like 10 years later or something, we popped up very good like social media networks like LinkedIn and so on. So then it got easier also to headhunt candidates. And this also meant that candidates kind of like high-level candidates also got used to be headhunted. I mean, they didn't want to apply to a job on a job board anymore. They basically wanted someone to handle them professionally, knock on the door, and guide them through the entire process. So then headhunting really evolved. And then if we to the pandemic, then I think we have the second mega trend, and something happened there. And I can see from our own perspective, I mean, the pandemic hit us. We all got kind of like shocked. I mean, we got the lockdowns. We had a business in Bulgaria by then, like with 60 guys, and I started like to getting nervous there. Like, will customers start calling us now, like canceling the contracts with us? And indeed, the customers start calling us, but they didn't cancel the contracts. They asked us, hey, can you help us to expand our teams? Because now everyone works remotely anyway. So it's very smooth for us to expand the team with you in Bulgaria. So then I realized that something really happened there. I mean, we already had the tools and everything in place to work remotely. Everything was in place when the pandemic hit us. But then I think the mindset of many employers changed, that they allowed people to work remotely, either fully remotely or like hybrid. Hybrid was the most prominent model, of course, afterwards. But I think that's the second mega trend, and to allow for remote work to some extent. And that also woke up the possibility to recruit freelancers, because when someone is is remote in another country, you cannot contract this person as you don't have a legal entity there. So then, the freelancing model really kicked off, and we see the pool of freelancing is growing very fast. Like this market is growing very fast. Like they expect it to double. The freelancing market is expected to double until 2030, basically. So more and more developers and professionals are becoming freelancers. I think these are the two mega trends that we've seen over these years.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, it's tapped into a completely new market. You got this nearshoring, basically an entire workforce basically that wasn't necessarily available before, that since this shift to remote, and I guess to some extent now more the hybrid model, I guess is the way. But yeah, thank you very much for your insights there. I'm going to shift gears here a little bit about talking about candidate expectations. I'm going to bring this question over to you, Ivan. So over this period of time since the pandemic, how have the expectations of candidates changed over this time?
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Well, first of all, on both fronts, like Anders said, candidates have definitely grown a lot more accustomed to being contacted instead of them just applying for positions. The whole dynamic has changed a lot. As we all know, you get approached a lot more on media, LinkedIn, and various other channels. Basically, the number one, or maybe one of the number one things is that flexibility has become basically non-negotiable for them. All of the top talent, all of the best developers, all of the IT professionals we worked with on a daily basis in Jobshark, they've been asking us always the same question right off the gate. What's the policy? What's the work model? Can I work hybrid? Are there remote options? Basically, this just goes to show how important this has become. And there are literally no signs of this slowing down, despite there being some information of return to office movements and stuff like that. This is absolutely not true, and it's backed by numbers, not just by our opinions. If we have to dig a little bit, Gallup did a very nice study last year in the US. Basically, they ran some polls and they found that 93% of the professionals wanted absolutely to have a remote or hybrid work arrangement. 55% of them were actually currently working in this type of model, and 26% fully remote. Hayes in the UK, on the other side of the pond, they did a similar survey, I think around like 1,000 IT professionals. 48% of the surveyed people said that if they get mandated to work solely back from the office, they'd rather quit. So this just goes to show you the extreme lengths people are willing to go now. And this is normal. People have gotten used to it. Productivity hasn't gotten down. There are plenty of studies. Stanford did at least a couple of major studies, one with Church.com, if I'm not mistaken, where they did a randomized blind testing, which was basically an industry standard. And they got the results that not only that didn't affect productivity, absolutely not. It even in some cases boosted promotion rates. And the other thing, of course, your process. People don't want cumbersome processes. People don't want to go through 6 rounds of interviews, 3 technical tests, and a meeting with the CTO. They want a clean, streamlined process. They want transparency, and they want it fast, because usually right now, really high demand professionals, they're in multiple channels at once. They're going through interviews with multiple companies, and it's the fastest man wins. You need to be fast, you need to be efficient. Of course, that brings with that some more challenges, but we can talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, clients expect effective processes, not waste their time, absolutely flexibility. You won't even be on their radar if you go with, we don't have that option. We see it every day.
Yeah. It's kind of difficult with a workforce, a technical workforce particularly, always kind of leaned more towards the flexible work model, working, different hours of the day and stuff like that. Kind of difficult to say, yeah, you know what, everyone's going to be back in the office now. I don't think it's going to go down too well with your candidates. But yeah, very, very, very good insight there. Robert, I can see you've been patiently waiting there, so I'm going to ask this next question to you, talking about hiring practices a little bit, to elaborate a little bit further on what Ivan shared here. So the question is, despite all the changes, despite everything that's happened, what hiring practices do you think have stood the test of time? And you can go as far back as the pandemic or even further, but what hiring practices do you think have stood the test of time?
Well, first of all, as you said, I have to kind of connect to what Ivan said, because I completely agree with what he said. Like that nowadays, employees, if you want to have this top talent, you have to have a clear process. You have to have this, clear indication of what's going to happen next. Hey, okay, we're going to contact you in 5 days. This is the process. You have to go for this and that step. But also, we have to tackle this from the perspective of the companies. So what the companies are doing right now, which helps them get this talent, right? So I would say the most important thing is the human element. Despite us having all these, all these tools, we can do pre-selections, we can do screenings. But right now, especially in this wake of AI, we have to have a tailored conversation, even if it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes at some point. Of course, I completely agree with Ivan again on not having the session with the CTO, CEO, COO, and CPO at various stages, and also 2 calls from an HR lady in between, but a conversation that is relevant, that is going to assess the culture of the company. I think that's to the test of time, definitely. That's something that I would do if I were to hire right now, if I were to hire someone to my team, I would definitely interview them. Despite having gone through some selection of CVs, which we know right now, CV selection tools, systems are becoming, there is
AI
an
automated.
abundance. Exactly, Justin. I think there's, what is the precision of those tools? It's a good question. Like, because I've also heard from my customers and my colleagues in the industry many comments about the actual benefit that comes from that screening, and it's the opinions are split right now.
Yep.
But what stood the test of time, definitely, that I can say, that I can attest to with my cases that I've seen and my customers, I can say that it's definitely this human element that I would under no circumstance exclude from the hiring process, especially if we're talking about crucial hires such as team leaders, IT, oriented managers, especially in these key roles. So I would say I would narrow it down to that, really, because that is the key, and I would really recommend always having this human touch, human element. Even if you have the best ATS, which is of course also recommended by me more thoroughly, and testing platform like ours or some other, or you have a perfect pipeline that is healthy, always include that human element there, because it's shown through the years that it's really the best guarantee of you having the right candidate.
Yeah. I think that extends beyond just tech as well. I have friends and colleagues in the job market right now, and yeah, that obviously AI is speeding things up. It's making things more efficient, but yeah, you lose that element. And I think obviously this has the potential to change as younger generations enter the job market and stuff like that. But for those of us that remember the traditional path, I think this is an extremely important thing as well. And as Ivan said, keeping the process as efficient as possible. Don't make people jump through 25 hoops just to get to a final interview. It's not going to work, particularly in a fiercely competitive market like tech. Okay, I am actually going to launch our second poll, if I could find it. Go back here. We've touched on this a little bit, talking about freelance versus contract-based employees, but I'm going to launch this poll here. And the question is, what percentage of your current technical workforce is freelance versus contract-based or contract-based? 0 to 25%, 26 to 50%, 51 to 75%, or 75% or more. If you're not sure as well, obviously you can elect to choose unsure. And we are going to, bring our next question something close to the hearts of Anders and Ivan, talking about freelance versus in-house. I'll let that run a little bit longer. Again, if you're watching on LinkedIn, unfortunately, you can't vote in the polls, but you are more than welcome to ask questions in the comments. I've got it open here, and I'll be sure to ask that in our Q&A session later today. Again, if everyone's got any questions, you can fire them in there as well. Okay, we have got some votes, so I'm going to end the poll, share the results, which should be appearing on your screen right now. So question is related to freelance versus contract-based or freelance versus in-house. 0 to 25%, we had 47% of you. We also got 33% for 26 to 50, 13 51 to 75%, and there were some votes for 75% or more. And I'm sure that this is a trend that's probably had an upward tick since the pandemic, as we alluded to in the first question here. But I'm going to elaborate a little bit on the poll here. I'd like your opinion on this one, Anders. So, what key factors do you consider when deciding between hiring freelancers versus in-house developers?
Yeah, that's a good question, Justin. I mean, traditionally, freelancers for more like short-term projects for a temporary need and so on. But I mean, it has changed a little bit over the last years. I would say the real question is rather like, can you consider remote employees or a fully distributed team or part of the team or not? Because if you can, then you broaden your pool of candidates exponentially. Because all of a sudden you can look at the entire pool of skilled candidates in globally, literally. Maybe you won't have them in your own time zone, so you limit yourself a little bit. Still, you really expand your pool of potential candidates. And if you decide to hire someone that's not where you have an own legal entity, you need to contract them over like a freelancing contract. So I think it's more like a formality rather, like more whether we choose like a freelancer or like for example like an employee. First to find the right person, then if you cannot hire this person directly like an employee, contract this person like a freelancer, and there are very good models for this. Some so it's pretty easy today to contract freelancers like this. It's safe and it's transparent. And so I think this is already the question.
Yeah, sure. Ivan, what's your thoughts on this, mate?
Thanks, Justin. Like you said, it's near and dear to us. We work with a lot of these models. It's actually less about the model, and again, in 2025, it comes more to the person, because freelancers have basically become a strategic asset in our opinion. First of all, like Anders said, they used to be considered as an add-on, something of an afterthought, something, but now they can be integrated and can function alongside your core team without absolutely any issues. As a matter of fact, in our experience and in my opinion, it's actually not a either or question, because the smartest companies, at least we work with, they actually blend both. So what I mean by that is that they do build their own core teams for continuity and stuff like that, but they also tap into nearshoring and freelancers options for their speed, for their specialization, for their scalability, because once again, we go back and circle to the pool sizes. Now, can you imagine how much more you open up to specialists and very competent people just by looking into the freelancing model or nearshoring, and it just opens up so much candidate potential that you would otherwise be losing on just because you're looking into the traditional local hire, that has to come in and stuff like that. And some people even talk about loyalty and stuff like that. We can tell you that some freelancers can be actually more loyal even than local hires, depending, of course, on the situation and the person. But cost, even if you want to look at it like this, they can have a great ROI. I mean, the return of investment can be great. They can be very cost effective. You can budget them. You can actually just be very flexible with what they do, only the projects they work on, and you get a very nice return on your investment there. So yeah, definitely, I would say it's a win-win for both the company and the freelancer, because if we advocate a little bit on the candidate side as well, for them that's a chance to pick and choose, to work with different companies on different projects, gain a lot more experience. The company again is happy as well for gaining their specific skill set and being able to rely on them for their needs. Communication no longer an option. I believe every freelancer worth their salt can speak English, and when you do nearshoring, you can even try and match more closely culture, languages, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, with this type of thing becoming the norm, it's an absolute shame if you do not tap this spring, if we can call it like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you raised some very interesting points there. I think, yeah, definitely the freelance model was probably in the past more to fill a short-term need, you could say. But I think with the shift that happened with the pandemic, it kind of it opened this possibility up, and it's completely possible now. We work remotely at Devskiller. We've got people all over the place. With Slack, Google Teams, Zoom, these sorts of things, it's fully possible. Then on the employee side, they've got this, as you said, this possibility to work in multiple jobs at the same time if they're not full time. Even though sometimes you hear stories that could even be technically a couple of jobs at the same time, but keeping the work interesting and diverse, getting the opportunity to work on multiple projects at the same time. It's a win-win scenario for sure. And I think something, if we run that poll again, maybe in 5 years' time, we might see even a larger percentage of the workforce being in this freelance capacity. Okay, we are going to keep moving here, Robert. I've got this next question here. We're talking a little bit about assessing technical skills, particularly as we say in a skills-first market or skills-first economy. This term's being thrown around a lot. Something obviously near and dear to us at Devskiller. So the question here is: how has the approach to evaluating technical skills changed in recent years, particularly in light of a skills-first economy?
Thanks, Justin. I think it has changed much because we're not looking at job openings really anymore. We're more looking at job skill profiles. As you said, skills first, right? I mean, we want to have people as recruiters, as managers, as basically company owners, entrepreneurs. We want to have people that are reliable in projects that are easy to upskill, reskill, that are flexible, dynamic. As Ivan mentioned, there is this loyalty angle, which really, like, what is it, right? I mean, what if we boil it down to what it really is? I think is the ability for this person to grow, to expand, because if they don't see that angle, they're not going to be loyal. Even if they're like in-house bred, whatever, right? Dog fed, all that. Employees that you grew, they're eventually going to vaporize from the environment where they can grow. So what happens is you have to look at this from the perspective of skills. And right now I see customers that come to me and say, hey, we need to have the skill taxonomy, and this is where of course our tools comes in. But not to be salesy here, it's just what happens on the market, really, like what we've seen with this shift. So how is it changing the approach to testing skill? I think that people are starting to test the actual skills and to understand, even beyond what they assume that they need, what the people are bringing to the table. So for example, if I hire someone right now, I will look not only at their current state, but I have to imagine in some other projects, how can I actually utilize their skills that they asked for, and also what skills are they bringing that they want to tell me about, or what is the direction. So I think it's more vector oriented. We have to look at some direction of growth, not at just the state that it is right now. So it's kind of like this as is to be situation with employees right now. And it's actually great from the perspective of the employees that companies are starting to shift it like that, because it's great for, but like everybody wins, right, in this situation. So this is what I think is changing. And of course we have new tools to test skills. Right now we have tools that allow you to test not just theoretical knowledge, but in real life scenarios, real work scenarios. So you can basically in like 30 minutes up to an hour, you can emulate a full day of an employee. You can see how they behave. And with this human touch, it's a perfect match, I think, for just checking anything and any position, really. But since we're talking about technical skills, I think the shift is definitely to that. And I would also add one more thing. I've been noticing with technical companies that they're also starting to acknowledge the importance of soft skills. So I think that's also an angle that's worth mentioning here, because there's also all sorts of tests present right now for soft skills, and it's becoming increasingly important, especially in the ever-changing, very fast-paced work environment that we have right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Ivan, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, I absolutely have to agree with Robert on this one. After all, you're not hiring for looks most of the time, you're hiring for output. Speed and accuracy are keywords here. This is actually why we love our friends and partners at Deskewer, because you make it possible with high confidence evaluations, no guesswork. This is basically imperative, because in order to have that aforementioned optimal and fast and streamlined process, you need to be able to properly evaluate candidates. Obviously, without this, it would kind of fall apart, because you can hire the most positive and good-looking person, but if they can't fill the role, or they're not filling it to the extent that's needed, you're gonna suffer, and your business is gonna suffer. So.
Yep.
One thing I do want to add from my end here, because we were talking, Robert mentioned soft skills. Yes, of course, personality is incredibly important for team fitment. And sometimes in some situations, you'd be better off hiring a person who is more open, more approachable, more of a good fit in terms of listening and flexibility, than someone just because they have one particular skill more than them, or they know it a little bit better. We've seen this, and it's important, but skills over formal qualifications, I say. Right now, it used to be that everybody was looking like where you went to study, your formal exams, formal certifications. Yes, those things can be important, of course, certifications, but in our day and age, there's so much information on the internet. There's so much open source courses. We know the Linux Foundation. We know so many other great examples where you can actually learn a lot and learn well. So basically, we need to shift, and we need to accommodate for that fact. And skill-based evaluations will help you, because you can put aside the CV part of the stuff. Oh, I went to MIT or whatever, or the case may be, and actually see what this person can bring to the table. So absolutely imperative, and it just makes the whole process we're talking about work.
If I can add just one more little thing, because I completely agree with what Ivan said. This is great. I think also, Ivan, you can probably also see that at Jobshark, this trend, right? But I also wanted to add a kind of supplement to what Ivan said, and strongly encourage you to also think about that. All of of course, the participants, to think about like what's like right now. I think we're hiring the people for their ability to adapt to even within the technology that they're working with. Because okay, we have a Java developer, but what happens to Java in 2 years, right? We kind of have to predict that, right? It's unpredictable, of course, but we kind of have to look at that. It's great that even that you brought that up, because I kind of forgot to mention it, but it's very important. I think it's very important that it's the adaptability. It's just the ability to basically to fit to the environment is great.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we will keep moving, because we just got to be a bit conscious of time. We've touched on this a little bit, actually, Anders. I think all of you kind of talked a little bit about hiring efficiency. And this question here is talking about finding the right balance. So what advice can you share on how to balance the urgency to hire quickly with the need for accuracy when evaluating technical talent?
Yeah, that's also a good question. Yeah, I mean, it's a balancing act. You need to, you have a person in front of you, and you need to evaluate this person's skills at the same time as you don't want to risk losing this person. And a very good way of doing it is first of all, I think you have to really think about the overall process you have. You have to start from, before you start the kick off the recruiting process, you have to define a smooth process for the candidates. You have to define the steps, and you have to eliminate unnecessary steps. One simple thing can be instead of having two separate meetings, you can have those meetings after each other or together or something. You can try to compromise the process. So you have an efficient process for the candidate. And then when it comes to evaluating particularly the technical skills, we have good experience with using tools like your tools, like DevScaler, because the advantage with automated tests is they're not biased, and they are time efficient for the candidate. I mean, if you tell your developers to put together like a programming test for candidates, I've seen it many times. I mean, it's often that this in their mind it's something that's easy to do, but in reality, for a candidate that haven't seen this before, maybe some new technologies, some new terminology, whatever, it takes more time than they assume. So having an automated test is very efficient there, because you keep it time limited and not biased. So that's a good approach. And then I think also to having like an open discussion also with technical people, like in particular with the people that are gonna become team members of this developer. It's a very efficient way, because in this way you can assess both technical skills and also like cultural fit, personality fit at the same time. So I think this is our experience. But you have to think twice, and you also have to think about the what kind of position you have, because it's very different if you have a junior position or whether you have a senior position. I mean, if you have a senior position to fill, I mean, this person have a longer track record. I mean, has a long CV, and you can pretty much assume that they have these skills in different areas. But if you have, in particular, if you have junior developers, it can really vary. I mean, what you have an education, but formal education doesn't say so much anymore. I mean, you have to really to evaluate these skills. What does it mean? I mean, we see, particularly when we evaluate junior developers, we see a big difference in their actual skills when we test them. And you cannot see that on the CV. So you have to also be smart and like adapt the process to what kind of position you have. So that's how we have been working.
Yeah, well put, Robert. What's your thoughts in it?
As much as I'd love to ponder about, you know, the robustness of the process that can happen, it can be in place here, and of course testing all the angles, and you ideally would like to check everything, right? But you can't. You just don't have time for that, and especially balancing if you have a immediate needs for you or your customer, you have to be very precise. And being precise means what I like to call identifying core skills, because we cannot really test for every skill in the CV, in the toolbox of this developer. Or I'm talking about developers mostly, of course, because this is my background. But if we're testing for only the core skills, we're getting the insights that we need, and this is the important part. You need to focus on what's important, basically. So as a recruiter, ask yourself, what are the most important skills that I want to really test? Make a test for that, make it last 30 minutes to an hour, and then there you have it. You don't really have to test for all the skills, because with the skills, it's kind of like they're all connected to each other, right? I mean, if you assess a level of certain skills, they take 5 or 6 core skills, you will also see the levels of these other skills reflected in that. So yeah, so I would say focus on core skills, make the tests relevant, and also try to make these tests into real cases. Try to not just bring the theoretical angle or reverse the binary tree or whatever, but actually sit these candidates in front of a project that has some meaning for this job opening or this position that you're testing for.
Sure.
I can maybe add something there. I mean, when you test, I mean, working with the core requirements is very important also from the beginning of the process, because when you do the sourcing, if you really limit yourself, like if you have a very, very long list of formal requirements, I mean, if you list every little framework, every little component this person needs to know, you're shrinking your pool of possible candidates to basically nothing in the end. So I think Robert is a very good point there. I mean, you need to really, before you start the process, you have to really define the core skills that are needed. I mean, that's hard to learn in a reasonable time, but I mean, a real talent, they are adaptable. I mean, they learn new things pretty fast. So if you don't work on really defining the core skills, you risk on losing that top candidate, because he or she doesn't have one particular skill that you put in your list. And this can even make them reluctant to apply for a job. So I think working with these core skills is something very important, and you need to discuss it with your technical staff. Like, what are really the core skills? If they give you a list of 50 different or even 10 or 20 different
It's a wish list.
skills, and a long wish list, I mean, tell them to separate at least in really need to have and nice to haves, and maybe even with the need to have, maybe if you have 80% of them, maybe you can still be considered. I mean, so I think that's a very good exercise actually, to do this from the beginning and really think about it. And this is changing. I mean, the only thing we know is things are changing. I mean, in 2, 3, 5 years from now, they will not use this particular framework you put in a job ad today. They will use something else. That's the only thing you know. We can only guess what they will use. But the only thing we know is it will not be the same like today. And the guys that can adapt and learn these new things fast, these are often the best candidates, of course.
Fully agreed.
Yeah. You need to keep these skill profiles and job profiles up to date. It's obviously what we do here at DevSkiller as well, but this is it's incredibly important when we talk about not just looking at your own employees for development opportunities and reskilling, upskilling, but when you actually do need to hit the market to find some new people, you've got that profile succinct. It's not a wish list. It's fully related to the role and the tasks at hand. We will move on. And this next question here is for you, Ivan, talking about the changing role of HR. The question here is, how has the role of recruiters and HR shifted in today's tech hiring landscape?
Well, it's a rather big shift, if we have to be honest, more than some people actually even imagine. How can we say it? Your next team is only as good as your hiring manager. So basically, a recruiter now is a lot more of a strategic role rather than just an administrator per se. I kind of view this as being almost a salesperson, because right now you're trying to sell the company culture to the candidates. You're going out, you're being proactive, you're reaching out to people, you're saying, hey, we do this and that, we are this, we are that. And it's not just about, this image I think all of us used to have of this person, man, woman, doesn't matter, sitting in a cubicle and just going through CVs, swiping next in their system, and just waiting for a deadline to come and to bring someone in. And hey, if they come, they come. If not, it's not my fault. Yeah. So basically, they need to be a lot more people-oriented. They need to be able to assess the actual person. They help shape your brand, because after all, they are your face. That's what the candidate sees once they go past your website and go past the logo. They see the person they speak with, and they're the first person. As we all know, there is no second attempt at the first impression. So the best companies win because they hire the best people and because they have good hiring managers. It just boils down to this. They need to be conscious, they need to be proactive, and they need to do more and represent the company in the best possible way, just outline the culture.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're going to touch a little bit on employer branding in a second, but Anders, I wanted to get your opinion on this matter, the changing role of recruiters in HR.
Yeah, I think Ivan made many good points there. I mean, the job on HR has dramatically changed. It's become harder to be in HR, but also more important to have good HRs in your organization, as it's tougher and tougher to find the best talent. I think also one issue many HRs can have, especially in big organizations, is of course also to put recruiting and HR on top of the agenda, like make it a strategic issue, strategic topic, and also to convince the hiring manager or other stakeholders inside the organization that this has to be prioritized, that they need to be fast, that we need to move the process further with candidates. Otherwise, we lose them because time is your enemy, even more than before. If you're not fast, if you don't have an efficient process, you're very likely you will lose very good candidates. So time is really your enemy here, and to fight this, I mean, HR has to be more important, has to be prioritized in especially in big organizations, because
it is very tough to be in HR there sometimes because organizations are slow. Everyone have more higher priorities all the time, and it's hard to find the time for managers to meet good candidates and so forth. And just pushing it back to the HR that it's your job to keep them hot, yeah, but we cannot keep them hot forever. I mean, these guys have opportunities. So I think it's the world of an HR is way tougher today, but also it's also more interesting job to me today, more dynamic. I mean, you work with employee branding, you work more like sales oriented, like Ivan said, and you're a very important person in your own organization, more important than a lot of people realize often, actually, because you're really the link there. You're the face to candidates, and I mean, in the end of the day, I mean, to most organizations, I mean, hiring the right people is so extremely important. I mean, this decides the future of a company. I mean, you can look at every successful company. Do you think there is one successful company in the world without excellent employees? I haven't seen one so far. I mean, it's all about hiring the best people, and this is why HR is important and increasingly important for the long-term success of the company. And there has to be an awareness, and it's happening. There is a building awareness in organizations that HR is extremely important. And it's a totally different job today than it was 10, 5, even 20 years ago.
Yeah. I think you both hit the nail on the head. We talk about it a lot. We actually just had a webinar talking about the changing role of HR becoming much more on the strategic side, and we had a regular webinar panelist of ours, Jeff Wellstead, who hits the nail on the head that your people are your most expensive costs, basically. So if you hire the right people, things can go very far. If you hire the wrong people, it can cost a lot of money and cost even more in the sense of loss of productivity and stuff like that. So it's incredibly important, and certainly something that I think is going to continue to adapt over time. I am going to launch our final poll for today. We've touched on it a little bit, employer branding. It's going to segue into the final portion of our conversation here. But the question here is, outside of salary, putting it to the side, what is the biggest impact on your employer brand when attracting tech talent? Company culture and values, tech stack and innovation, career growth and learning opportunities, remote work flexibility, recruitment, marketing and social presence, or other? And I'm sure that's it's easy to say it's a combination of these things, but if you had to just choose one, please do so, cast a vote, and I'll share the results shortly. Still some votes coming through. Haven't quite hit the 100% mark for attendees and vote casts, but we're getting closer. So I'll let it roll a little bit longer. And those of you watching us on LinkedIn, and for everyone, a quick reminder, if you've got any questions for our panelists, now would be the time to fire them in our Q&A. We'll save a bit of time at the end. And of course, if we don't manage to get through all of it, we'll be answering them and sending them to you all by email after the webinar. I'm going to end the poll and share the results on the screen now. So outside of salary, what has the biggest impact on your employer brand when attracting tech talent? We got a tie for 33% between career growth and learning opportunities and remote work flexibility, but some votes for basically everything else. The second highest was company culture and values, tech stack and innovation, and we actually got a vote for other. And I'm very interested to know what that might be. Feel free to drop that in the chats. But our second to last question here, I'm going to bring it back to you, Anders, talking about candidate impression of a company. So what are some overlooked moments in the tech hiring journey that can make or break a candidate's impression of your company?
Yeah, again, I mean, I think I spoke about it already. I mean, it's about having a very good process from the beginning, and define it from the beginning. Because if you're too slow, if you're too late, if you don't communicate the process to the candidate, you face a big risk of losing this candidate. So define the process from the beginning, and not only define it, also make a very efficient process without unnecessary step, and keep it nice and sweet and balanced. So you evaluate the candidate, of course, but at the same time you have to keep it efficient for the candidate, and you need to stay professional throughout this process with the candidate, provide feedback and so forth. And one thing one thing we have seen and learned is that a lot of candidates, actually it's a bit contradicting to the poll there maybe, but a lot of candidates are actually very interested in the tech stack, and it's combined with career growth possibilities, of course. Because a lot of developers, I mean, this is what they do in a daily job. I mean, they work with certain technologies, and when they work on certain technologies, they also develop, they also grow. So it's learning by doing. So my experience is that it's extremely important for developers what to actually work with, what kind of technologies, what languages, what frameworks, what they're allowed to do, if they're allowed to suggest things like new technologies to be implemented. It can be very positive. Whether it's like a maintenance project or they can develop something from scratch, or if it is a maintenance project, it's good to find some areas where the candidate can, let's say, grow and develop something new and maybe extend functionality, or just kick off another little project on the side where they can like explore some new technologies and so on. Because so that's one takeaway for us at least. I mean, it is very important for the candidate what they will actually work with.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, that some of these things are tied together, but you've also got to look at it that it's probably one of the few fields where the job is actually also a passion project for a lot of people as well. A lot of developers work in their own free time, coding their own stuff as well. So this is also somewhat of a hobby as well. So having this like innovation in the tech stack, getting the opportunity to learn new technologies is always extremely important.
It's like, sorry to interrupt, but it's like if you hire like a Formula One driver, and you don't show the Formula One driver the car. I mean, do you think he will be interested or not?
Yeah, exactly. Like how can I make this thing move fast?
We have a supercar. It's fast. That's it.
I mean, just trust us. It's good.
And that's also why it's important the candidate really can meet their colleagues, like teammates, like technical guys in the team, and can ask these questions and get to know, like, I mean, it's often like a wow experience. I mean, because sometimes they use something, they can find a little trigger for the candidate. Yeah, we do this and that, and this is really cool, and we use this new technology here, and we designed it like this, and they can, I mean, such things can often excite developers. Like,
absolutely,
this is our.
Yeah, for sure. No, incredibly important. Robert, what's your takeaway here, mate?
I'll make it very plain and simple. It's basically, it boils down to processes, as Anders said. When a company is hiring anyone, not even tech-related positions, but any candidates, they are, as you've mentioned, it's kind of become a sales thing. They are selling on an idea of a culture. So if I want to become a part of a big organized culture, then I want to work on that environment. What does it tell me if that culture is unorganized, even at the first stage, when it's selling me this, if it's unorganized, if I can't trust this culture, what does it say? So I would say, any places that this culture is not coherent, it stands out in the wrong way, that's the overlooked place. And I think you have to look at your process, you have to look at your pipeline and see where the talent is dropping. Where is that place? It's every place that is not consistent with what you're saying, what you're advertising for. It can be holes, it can be too many steps, basically everything like that, I would say.
I think that's a very good point, Robert. I mean, we're talking about employer branding here as well. I mean, employer branding is not just a white piece of paper where you put some nice words. I mean,
company mission logo or something like that.
It's something that really has to mean something for you. I mean, you have to stand behind it. I mean, don't make the mistake to put things in your employer branding that you don't live up to, because it will hit you sooner or later. Like, I'm sure every organization have really nice things in the culture that will appeal to certain individuals. And recruiting is more like pieces of a puzzle. I mean, there is not a right and wrong in company culture. There is one culture that I would like. There is one culture that you would like, Justin, and you, Robert. And they are not exactly the same. And so two developers that looks exactly the same on the paper, maybe they will have very different perspective of what kind of company culture they're looking for. So when it comes to employee branding and company culture, I mean, my advice is really, I mean, be honest there and really stand behind what you say, and you have to mean what you say with the employee branding. Otherwise, it will maybe you can hire someone on few words, but sooner or later they will realize this is not what your company stand for really, and then it means nothing. I mean, then it will just be disappointment. And instead of hiring someone that really likes your company culture, hire someone who expect a company culture that you don't provide. So I think be very honest there and let them meet. Also, it's very hard to explain a company culture. It's something you feel. I mean, I think all of us have felt it. I mean, when you walk into a meeting, you get meeting new people. You always get new impressions. I mean, and sometimes you feel really welcome. You feel like this is your home. You feel like you've known these people for decades. And sometimes you feel some like
out of place,
some friction, some aversion there. Something is not really right. It's not really your home. Even if you can be there, work there, act professional with these people, of course, it's not really where you belong. And this is actually company culture. It's also like a feeling you have when you meet people. So that's also why it's so important to meet the team and so on, and to really to just to talk with them. I mean, and to get this feeling of the company culture, because a candidate should feel that this is the right place for them, and it should be mutual, of course, also from the team, that they feel that, hey, yeah, this guy will really fit into our team or contribute to something. I don't mean that everyone should be identical, absolutely not. Heterogeneous, diversified team are better in general, but company culture is something you can sometimes not explain. You just have to. It's more like a feeling you get, and you get this throughout the process. You have to. You also have to manage this by meeting people in your organization.
Yeah. Incredibly important. Okay, we are at the final question here. And one more time, if anyone's got any questions to ask our panelists, feel free to drop them in the Q&A now. But we're going to just do a quick fire here, just because I'm a bit conscious of time. We're getting very close to the hour mark. So what I want from each one of you is a quick prediction. So a single prediction, what you think will be the biggest impacts on tech hiring evolving over the next, let's say, two to 3 years. I'm going to go left to right. So we'll start with you, Ivan. You go first with your biggest prediction.
Yeah, sure. Pretty easy in my viewpoint. Right now, we know hybrid teams policies. This is already becoming the norm. This will absolutely only continue. I see no other way around it. So my prediction is that companies that invest in asynchronous workflows and tools today, they're going to be ahead of the curve moving forward. So success lies in flexibility and cross-border collaboration. That's the future for me.
Okay, thank you. Short and sweet. Anders, what about you? What's your biggest prediction?
Yeah, I agree with Ivan, of course. Also, I mean, Gen Z, I mean, they have different expectations. They want more flexibility. It's moving this direction, like with freelancing and remote work and so on. Then, of course, also you have to touch AI. I mean, I think AI will be used in different parts of the recruiting process. I see it more like a helpful tool that we will use. Like that's my prediction. We'll use it in sourcing. We will use it for assessing personality. I mean, I tried some beta versions of AI is assessing personality, like over like a conversation like you and me are doing now. And it's getting better and better, I must say. I mean, so I'm sure that AI will play a role here. I mean, it will help us. I don't see any contradiction here. I think it will help us, and you have to use good tools there. And it will make everything smoother for everyone, but it will not. I don't predict that it will replace HRs or something. I think it will be an invaluable tool that we have to be open to use rather.
Yeah, I just have to say we have to give ourselves a bit of a pat on the back that we got 58 minutes into this webinar, and I think that was the longest we've actually spoke about AI. So that's congratulations to us for not going too deep into AI this time. Robert, close us off with your biggest prediction.
Yeah. I completely agree with both of you guys. AI, I want to match this with saying that you can't be scared of it, because it's gonna be all over the place in like 1 or 2 years, and it's gonna see it everywhere. So use it smartly, use it as a tool, allow it to help you with your data, aggregate the data, make informed decisions based on that, power your tools with AI, not replace your processes fully, but plug it in, let it play with the data. If it's reliable, double check it for now, but yeah, until it's perfect. But I would say this is my biggest prediction, that that's how it's going to look. And processes, make them consistent, and this is what's going to matter in the future marketplace, especially in tech, I assure you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, everyone, firstly, for joining us to today's webinar. I think we had a great discussion. I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank Ivan, Anders, and Robert for taking the time today to share your insights. As I mentioned at the top, this webinar, this session is being recorded. It'll be appearing on our YouTube channel tomorrow. And also, if you're registered on Zoom or LinkedIn, you'll get an email with the recording for that tomorrow as well. So keep an eye on your inbox for that. But now we're at the 1 hour mark. I'd like to say thank you one more time, and hope to see you all again soon. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
See you later.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Bye, guys.